Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to have you on another Right Way podcast session today. Oh, my days. We've got two cracking guests, but really also a topic that I know a lot of you are really interested in knowing a little bit more about personal branding for business growth, fakery or necessity. And certainly we're going to be tackle those two elements of personal branding today because there's a lot to go. I mean, as business leaders, there's a massive push for our team looking at us to really be more of center stage, front of house, be in the faces of the social media landscape, and I think really it's a topic that I think it'd be nice to just talk about. Obviously, I've been through that whole process myself into that thinking process, and we've got two lovely guests to be able to do that. And the first thing I just wanted just to share is that Jade Arnell is not going to be with us today. She's got a family situation that she's dealing with, and so we give her some space to do that and wish her very much well on that process. But we're not going to have anybody less. Always the best on this show. So first of all, I'd like to just introduce to you Charlotte Carter. Hello, Charlotte. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm great as well. So we're going to have Charlotte with us, and also we've got Catherine in the house, which I'll introduce in a little while as well. But just to let you know a little bit about Charlotte. Um, Charlotte is a sales and marketing director at Rebellion Marketing, but she's also a founder at carterbags.com. Carterbags.com. You need to look at it. Super,
Yeah.
super cool. And Charlotte launched bags with no experience in product design, manufacturing, or e-commerce, and has sold thousands of her designer laptop bags for women online with no marketing budget in just 2 years. So even though she's playing a massive part of Rebellion Marketing, which is obviously a global business, but at the same time, she's doing some fantastic stuff as well, building this carterbags.com. So have a look at that. And I think really the nice thing about that is that she's got a whole host of issues. A lot of
I
issues.
do have a lot of issues though, Wayne. We won't go over them today. We'll be here all
Nothing that
day.
you can't solve, Sean. Nothing you can't solve. But
Marketing
at the
issues, not
same
a
time, she's
problem.
created some fantastic insights and the leverage of power of personal branding to build a business from scratch. So, welcome, Charlotte, to the house.
Thank you. That was a lovely intro.
And, make no mistake, I've got Catherine as well. Bless her. I mean, another rock star that we have, and I just want to introduce Catherine to us as well. And Catherine E. Strachan is an award-winning entrepreneur and CEO of Copy House, a fast-growing global manufacturing, marketing. My God, but I think you can do all things, though, Catherine. I mean, you're so talented. Marketing agency working with some of the most innovative tech brands. Very much a trailblazer. Catherine has grown Copy House into a multi-million-dollar business with 25 talented creatives and strategists. And in her spare time, Catherine enjoys empowering others in the community and is well known on the speaker circuit. And in addition, she has a number of public sector NED roles. So we're really delighted and thank you, Catherine, for making the time to share your wisdom and insights with us today. Busy, busy lady, but bless you and thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Perfect. Well, ladies, we've got a lot to get through. Lots and lots to get through. Obviously, you've seen what the topic is. Let me just really sort of share the sort of direction of travel for all of us today on the show. And the first thing really I'll say, we've got the introductions. We're going to go through some sort of discussions, a few questions I want to pose our panelists today. And just to say as well, even though we do have questions at the end, but please, if you want to have a burning question that you want to pose, we're picking up all the chats from all the streams, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or or YouTube. It all comes into our system as well, so we'll be able to pick up any questions and pose it to the panelists here. So if you have any burning questions, please don't hesitate to just fire them up or comments around the podcast, and we'll love to just share that with you all today as well. So that just gives you a direction of the travel today. And but yeah, I think for me, as I mentioned on my intro, personal branding as leaders, and I have activities here in the UK and in the US. There's a big push for us to become more front of house in terms of the social media landscape, in terms of being aware, people to know us, etc. As well. Why is that change? What's causing that driver? And so let's start the sort of narrative, and why does this demand for business leaders to be more out there? I mean, typically, most of us are pretty introverted as people, so that push is a bit uncomfortable for a lot of us. Charlotte, you want to kick us off, and then what your thoughts are around what's changed, apart from the fact that we have social media, but what's changed to really force business leaders to be more front of house and to be more visible on social media?
So I think that there's been a lot of big cultural shifts in the way that people interact with businesses. For example, when I was younger, I don't want to make myself sound really old, but when I was younger, we didn't really have reality TV. It kind of came in when I was probably maybe like 11 or 12. Whereas previous to that, we kind of had shows that were planned, etc. And it was more like dramas and things. So I think that the way that we kind of interact with all types of media has changed. And that's why people kind of want to know behind the scenes. They want to get to know who is it at the business that they're dealing with and what are they really supporting. They want to understand the values. And there's a storytelling aspect of it as well, to really get to understand someone's journey, and something that they can really buy into and connect. And I think consumerism is a lot more now as well. The way we buy has changed as a society. So I think that people are just really looking for more of a connection with brands, and personal branding is a really great vehicle to do that and to support other marketing activities.
Totally agree in terms of some of the sort of focus around the sort of the storytelling element that we see as well coming through, in terms of people want to understand the backstory in terms of who we are as people more and more. Have you got any more thoughts around that, Catherine, as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that fundamentally there really has been a change, because people buy from people. You're always
Sure.
going to be more likely to trust an individual than you are, a faceless corporation. But I think, what has changed is how accessible it's become to have a personal brand. So, back in the day when Bill Gates or Steve Jobs were building their tech companies, they were very front and center. And if you think of many of the big companies, who owns them, and who's front and center there. You need a brand ambassador who can be the evangelicalist, who can be on stage, who can be promoting what you're doing, especially if you're doing something new. So most tech companies, I mean, my company, we specialize in the tech industry. So, you particularly see that being the case there. But what has changed is it's far easier for somebody who is not Steve Jobs, say, to build a personal brand. So, we all have access to social media, and social
Yeah.
media has massively become more part of our lives. So it's all at our fingertips, and if you want to get in front of your audience, being on social media and being active there is one of the best ways to do that. Nobody's going to wake up and log on to your website, but they are going to wake up and log on to social. I bet most of us here probably wake up and log on to social pretty much every day. It's probably one of the first things we check. So if you have a strong following, if you are active on those channels, you're much more likely, much more able to get in front of your audience. So it's tapping into the psychology that's always existed, where, we trust people more than we trust faceless corporations, and we buy from people. But what's changed is being able to harness that in digital marketing and being able to tap into it far more effectively with the rise of social. So social allows you to do that in a way that, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you most definitely couldn't. But, fundamentally, that psychological element hasn't changed.
And And I totally understand that, in terms of, when we look at the sort of big product launches by, Steve Jobs and, obviously Bill Gates and others, in the past, as whatever it is. And yeah, there tend to be more icons in it, and Tim Cook, obviously, in Apple as well. But where's the business case? I mean, for the smaller companies, I can see that for the bigger companies. But what's the business case? Why should a small owner, probably less than 20 employees, why should they engage in social media? What's the sort of return on investment that you see? If you want to just kick that off, Catherine, and I'll go to Charlotte after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think small businesses perhaps need it even more than big businesses because they don't have any credibility. Or not that they don't have any credibility, but they don't have the same brand equity, the same brand awareness as say Apple. So people do trust Apple, even if Steve Jobs wasn't there. But Steve Jobs started that when they were a much smaller company.
Yeah.
He started being front and center from the early days when they had to convince the market and the audience that like the new thing that they were doing was worth trusting. So personal branding, especially for smaller companies, needs to be part of your marketing strategy because it's all about building credibility and trust and differentiating yourselves in the market. I mean, why should somebody trust your company? Why should they buy from you? Why should the product or the solution that you're offering be what they invest their money in? I mean, you need to think about how you can build brand awareness. When it comes to like smaller companies as well, it's far more effective and easier to do, say, social media than it is to, create a 20, 30 page ebook on an emerging topic or, to get press coverage when you don't have that brand awareness. So if you have limited marketing budget and resources, social media is quite a low-hanging fruit and is relatively easy to implement compared to some of the bigger campaigns. So I think when startups come to us, we tend to work more with scale-ups and enterprises, but when startups come to us, one of the first things we suggest is social because, it's relatively easy for a founder to be able to sign off social posts. They don't have to spend as much time reviewing, a larger piece of content. It's much quicker, much easier. You normally already have a network that you have built over your career that you can tap into by creating social posts and staying top of funnel. So you start to see results quicker as well. Then, when you're building SEO or long-term or organic traffic, that takes longer. It's more of a long-term game where social allows you to play the long-term as well as the short-term. So there's a bunch of like strategic reasons why smaller companies should, but I certainly think that smaller companies have a bigger problem around credibility than bigger organizations that are already established, already know the market. And, one of the biggest benefits of personal branding is to build your credibility and establish yourself as a trusted pair of hands, but also a pair of hands that, knows what it's doing.
Sure. And from your perspective, just adding a little bit on that and be sharing some of your own personal experience as well in building Carter bags, Charlotte, just shares how the sort of impact of what was a business case for you about, using social media as really driving the performance of your business in a short period of time.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the major benefits of building a personal brand on social media for smaller businesses and startups across all industries is the fact that you can do it for free. You can literally start posting and building your personal brand with no marketing spend whatsoever. You literally just need your channel set up and you need to know what you want to stand for, what you want to be known for, and how you're going to communicate that with people. And you can start executing that yourself pretty much straight away at no cost whatsoever. So you don't need a big marketing budget to start building your personal brand. It's definitely good to obviously have a strategy. I think some people naturally are kind of more creative and more understand the process just naturally. It comes to them quite naturally. There's plenty of people that do it without working with an agency. But I think probably for smaller brands where their time is like completely consumed on other jobs within the business, because in a startup you have to wear so many hats, right? I think a lot of people fall down with consistency, so perhaps it's good to get support with personal branding if consistency is something that you're going to struggle with. But for sure, the engagement is so much higher on personal branding content, I have found, and I've seen that for a number of clients as well. So I think it's really important to build your business brand alongside your personal brand, I think. But definitely you can achieve really high engagement levels and you get better reach from a personal brand, as well as obviously building your credibility and building yourself as an authority in your industry or in your field or whatever you want to be known for. So for example, for myself, I've spoken about ladies' laptop bags for like about 2.5 years now on LinkedIn, to the point where people may not even know my name. They just know of me as the bag lady because of that consistency with just talking about bags. So, it's a really good tool for all business owners, no matter the size of the business, but particularly for small business owners, because you don't always have a budget. But definitely I would suggest, if you're going to look to build a personal brand, to try and capture data. So for example, if you are building your personal brand across a number of social media channels, how are you going to keep in touch with those people and really nurture those relationships? So things like setting up like email flows and campaigns, and having, a website with a bit more information about you, with email sign up forms, so that you can really get to know your customers and communicate with them and share with them any like new product launches that you're going to do, any campaigns that you're running, and share like a bit more in-depth information about your business as well. Because sometimes with social media, to get maximum impact, you kind of need to, probably Catherine will attest to that as well, you need to assure that you're going to get the reach and get the eyeballs on your content. You can't always go into as much depth as you would like, so finding other ways to keep in touch with those people and have a bit of a more meaningful conversation with them as well.
No, absolutely, and we can talk about all that later on. I'm a great believer in using social media as a means of driving your community back onto your own email list as well, and then have additional deeper engagement on separately outside of social media. But in terms of both of your businesses, and there's a question for both of you, if you didn't have social media, and I know, Catherine, you're all over the place, absolutely all over the place. I see your face everywhere. If you didn't have social media, would your growth in your business, or your reach in your business, or the clients that you attracted, would have been the same if you didn't have that? So Catherine first, and then Charlotte afterwards.
Probably for most people, no. But I would probably just refocus some of my marketing efforts into other areas. So, at the moment, my personal brand's a lot more than just social. I have a book that's just about to come out that I finished writing. I've got a podcast. I speak regularly, probably about once a week. I meet 50 new people every single month. So if you took social out of it, social's just one string in the bow of my personal branding. And if you took social media out of it, then I would compensate for that by doubling down in other areas. So if like tomorrow, for example, all social media died and there was no social media, it wouldn't impact my business because I would go into other areas. So my personal branding is not entirely reliant only on social. Social certainly helps, and it's a good element of that strategy. But we host so many events and we have such a strong audience around us that I would, if I had to redesign my personal branding strategy without social in it, I would focus on some of the other areas. But it is massively helpful, and I would definitely recommend, because it still exists, having it as part of your strategy. And it's where most people start, by building their personal brand and then, expand outwards. So by becoming known on social for a specific area of subject subject matter expertise, you then get invited to lots of other opportunities. So I'm just about to record a 5-part course with SEMrush on B2B marketing. That's an opportunity that came via social ages ago, but I've done a lot of speaking events with them since. But if I hadn't been on social, then I probably wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, your LinkedIn or your social shouldn't be the only bow to your strategy. A good marketing strategy covers many channels and has many approaches.
I like that. Let's just go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, and I still want to ask the same question to you, Charlotte, but I just want to just break out that thinking that personal branding is just purely around social media. Really super important point. You probably didn't appreciate how important what you've just said is. You said it's just one strand of the whole personal branding piece. Break out for me, if you can. I appreciate it. I'm putting you on the spot here, Catherine. What are the key elements of that personal branding piece that you should be? And social media is just one aspect of it. What's the other aspects that come to mind?
Networking and events. So, it's all well and great to be active on social, but, there's nothing that replaces in-person conversations and connections. I mean, I often use them in power with each other. So, I meet somebody at an event or I meet somebody over coffee and I add them on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn content then helps me stay top of mind. So, they work hand in hand, but I have a networking goal of meeting 50 new people every single month. Which I've done for 2.5 years now. I have a podcast called Tech Marketers Uncorked. Sorry to plug my own podcast, which helps tech marketers to build their marketing strategies. So, that's another channel. I do a lot of speaking events and engagements, appearing on lots of other people's podcasts like this one is a really great way to build your credibility and to be able to showcase your expertise. So I would say speaking and networking are probably two of the most major, but then you start to appear in publications as well. So, a lot to Forbes and often in the media, which helps. So I would say first, the main two would probably be networking and public speaking. But then there are lots of other areas that you can tap into as well, including press and PR and having your own podcast and events. I mean, when you know enough people, it's easy to put together, 60, 70 person event or a roundtable. And these are all ways that it's just about building connection. And, the more people who know what you do, then the more people can refer you work or send you opportunities and the more your business can grow. So, I mean, socials, one element of that, but is certainly not the only element of that.
I love that. Very good. Right. And any more comments around that, Charlotte, from your perspective?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree, obviously, with everything you just said about there's a number of different channels that you can grow your personal brand on. But I think as well, your personal brand can really grow when you do start to grow your business initially and you've got those first few clients. They have a great experience of working with you, really get to know you, and you're always going to start to then get referrals from them as well and recommendations. So personal brand is definitely a lot more than what you just put out on social media. It's people's experience of you, and it is your reputation, isn't it? So it's all very good and well if you can build an amazing viral personal brand on social media, but if you're not kind of living up to that when people meet you, like Catherine said, when she's going to events and things and getting that chance to interact with people, that's probably given people a much better idea of who she is and how that aligns with her online presence as well. So personal branding is a lot more than just the content you post. It is about being, I hate the word because I feel like it's become probably overused, but it is about being authentic and being able to back up your personal brand as well in the flesh and in people's dealing with you, and operating with integrity and all the things you want to be known for. You've got to really be able to live up to that personal brand as well. But there's a million different ways you can get your name out there and get in front of other people. It's about considering your values and really knowing yourself and how you want to come across and operating in that way as well.
That's a nice little segue in terms of probably the next element I wanted to really just focus on, in that authenticity that we sometimes feel that a lot of people do not portray when they show themselves out into the field. But and I think I want to just explore this element that, personal brand is not about us. It's not about us, looking good or giving the world this element of fakery or necessity, this fake persona of whatever it is. I mean, for me, I've always looked at it as an element of how can I put myself out in front of my ideal clients. And I think and it's really nice to hear Catherine just put out the various sectors of personal branding that we can engage with. But for me, is how can I get in front of those key people who eventually will be my clients as well. And so for me, that's got to be the first point as well. And then, like you said, anything else will be then fall from that: the authenticity, the integrity, the like, trust and love type of elements approach that we always look to our relationships as well. So just conscious of our time as well, but just following that through in terms of that focus around our clients. How can somebody start? Hopefully, we've dispelled a couple of myths that you should really look at personal branding as a means of augmenting your business going forward, and obviously you guys have demonstrated that quite nicely. So going forward, how do people start? Let's say, for example, I'm a potential customer of both of yours. I've been happy. Let's say, for example, I'm an accountant. Accountants typically on introverts. They're not going to be wanting to show themselves. But how do I start? Where do I start? What do I do? Catherine, you want to just start us off in that little discussion?
I'd say that LinkedIn's probably like the first starting place. I mean, I would, as an accountant, LinkedIn makes sense. Most people some people will try to do multiple social channels at once. I'd recommend picking one that is really close to, your target industry, so your target audience. So accountancy is B2B,
100%.
so LinkedIn makes sense. But if you were, into, I don't know, if you're trying to build a personal brand that was more B2C, then you might consider other channels. Or, if you have quite a big personality and feel comfortable in video, then you might start building a personal brand on TikTok or even YouTube. I mean, you could. But it depends on A, where your target audience is, and B, where you feel comfortable. It doesn't make any sense, if you're somebody who's quite introverted, to go straight to video. So it makes sense to start with where you feel comfortable and where your audience is. So normally that's building a personal brand for an accountant on LinkedIn, and, perhaps starting with some written posts before you go into video, or even start to take selfies and more personalized videos of yourself. As you start to see these results come through, there are ways that you can like level up your game. So taking selfies or having a photo shoot that takes photos of you. Obviously, somebody who's introverted is not going to feel comfortable doing that right away, but you might eventually. Or expanding into video, and sharing some of your thoughts on some of the emerging tax trends that are coming out. But I would keep it simple. Pick one channel that you feel really comfortable on and start there. I mean, it should be said though that social doesn't have to be the only one. I know people who've built a personal brand around an email newsletter, or in a WhatsApp group, or with a podcast. So I mean, you don't have to start on social if you feel more comfortable on a podcast or doing like an email newsletter. I know people who've done it that way as well. Most people will start on LinkedIn, but it is possible to do it on other channels. So I would think about where your audience is, where they spend time, and what you feel most comfortable doing. It will be easier for you to achieve that consistency if you play to your own strengths. So if you are more comfortable on a podcast than you are on creating content for LinkedIn, do that. If you are more comfortable, creating static posts that don't have any imagery, do that. But start somewhere, and, don't let perfection overcomplicate things. The best thing is to get started. A lot of people will freak themselves out and say, oh, it's not perfect. I need to tweak, I need to tailor it, and, spend 2-3 months doing that. But, the world moves fast, and the only way you're going to learn what works with your audience is by going. So start somewhere, learn from, those insights, whether it worked, whether it didn't work, and then tailor and tweak and refine until you get it to a place that is really good. But I think I would probably approach it that way.
Cool. And yourself, Charlotte, and also just talk to this element of identifying where your clients live before you actually then sort of recommend opportunities for social media or other forms of networking. So not networking, personal branding elements as well. Do you want to speak into that?
Yeah. So just to touch on the previous topic, I would say as well, another really a good thing to do if you're thinking about starting a personal brand is to look at other personal brands that you like or you aspire to
Yeah.
kind of, recreate that in your own style. Look at what other people are doing and read loads, because there's so much information out there online now that you can find,
100%, yeah.
and that's going to inspire you and help you to kind of figure out how you want to write your post and what you want to do. So definitely looking at other examples and looking at, I'm not saying copy obviously what other people are doing, but find people, follow people, and actually pay attention to other people's personal brands, because that's going to give you a really good idea and inspiration of, okay, how can I relate that to what I'm doing? But for sure, I think finding obviously the channel that's going to work for you is a good idea. And also looking up, which channels have got opportunities at the moment. So for example, the engagement on LinkedIn is still pretty good. It's not where it was back in lockdown. For example, there was a massive opportunity for rapid growth of a platform, of a profile on LinkedIn throughout lockdown. We saw some profiles just completely explode. You can still get really good growth on personal brands and business brands on LinkedIn. But for example, TikTok at the moment, if you can really nail the platform and like Catherine said, you're confident with video content and you're able to really get to know that platform and understand the nuances of that platform, you can have massively rapid growth on TikTok, for example. Instagram, if you're really uncomfortable with video content, then you might struggle to see the kind of growth and rapid growth that you're going to want to get if you are a business owner that's needing quick results of building a personal brand and quick sales and start getting those inquiries in, relatively fast. Reels at the moment on Instagram, the reach is unbelievable if you really manage to nail it and get the content right. So I think as well, looking into what channels have got opportunities for quick growth and what kind of mediums you need to be using to tap into that as well is really important, because I think as well, some people get started and they think, oh, I'm not getting any views, I'm not getting any engagement. And it could just be something as simple as, when you're on LinkedIn, if you're sharing a link to a website in your post, that is going to penalize your post, because obviously LinkedIn wants to keep people on that platform. So sharing that link in the comments underneath the post is going to help you, one, drive traffic to that link because your post is going to be more visible, and two, you're going to reach a much wider target audience.
Sure.
So it's about, reading, doing your research, looking at where is your target market hanging out. And a really good example of that is actually Carter bags, because there's a really not, and especially when I started posting about the bags, there wasn't really a lot of e-commerce brands on LinkedIn. And even now there's probably a handful. But the reason why I wanted to, or saw an opportunity with ladies' laptop bags, is because I was already gaining momentum with my profile. And I realized that I already had connections and followers that would buy laptop bags, because it's a business platform, if that makes sense. So it is about finding out where your target market is going to be, and just checking your analytics and looking at, are you reaching the right people on the platform that you've chosen? And if not, why not? Could it be your content? Could it be, your messaging that you're putting across? Could it be like the tone of it? Are you sharing stuff that's relevant to your audience as well? Because I think a lot of people use most platforms nowadays. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm just like, I'm on my phone way too much. But I will go on to TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I think, I would agree with Catherine. Definitely, like, choose what you find easiest. If there's a platform that you already really, really like you enjoy spending time on TikTok and scrolling for hours, in the back of your head somewhere, you've probably already seen what's working and what's not working on that platform. And you know what kind of posts are performing on that platform. So you can get that visibility up, and quite quickly you can kind of recreate that for yourself. So I definitely agree with play to your strengths and play to what you enjoy as well. Because if you don't enjoy what you're choosing to do, then you're going to find it so hard to be consistent and so hard to create content.
No, that consistency is really, really super important. I've noticed, when I started to really knuckle down on building my own personal brand for the business and for me and the business, there was that consistency that I was really encouraged. I was doing the odd sporadic here and there content, but once I did that consistency, it was just a game changer really for me and my business as well. But coming back, and I appreciate we're just veering a little bit on social media, and I know that social media, and Catherine's rightly to highlight, is just one part of the whole personal branding experience. But coming back to identifying those key client jobs, where the key clients are based, do you find that you have to have that discussion, because generally it's no point doing a sort of massive TikTok campaign or Instagram campaign. It may be great for sort of B2C, sort of the car to bag type, business where you're really consumer focused. But a B2B, let's say I've got a business who's a water treatment business, I've got some electrical contractors here, and do you see that still as a good vehicle for B2B type businesses, Catherine?
Can be. I mean, TikTok can perform very well for B2B, but it depends a lot on your audience and who you're trying to reach and if they're there, and also like what creative campaign ideas you can come up with. So obviously it requires some creativity to come up with something, funny or interesting or engaging with plumbers, for example, or, whatever that example was. But it's not that it's impossible. It just requires some creative strategy. And, this is probably where, if you yourself are a plumber, you might want to get an agency or, somebody who is more creative involved, because they'll be able to,
Sure.
understand the platform better and understand what will work. But I mean, you can certainly do campaigns, B2B campaigns on other channels, and they definitely do work. I mean, people spend their time outside of work on those channels. TikTok is also very good for like a younger demographic, if that's what you're looking to target. It just depends entirely.
Charlotte, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, no matter what channel you're going to pick or what social platform you enjoy spending time on, once you have started posting, check your analytics and look at what demographic are you actually hitting, because unless you do that, you're never going to know whether you're reaching your target audience anyway. So it's about keep making sure that you are reaching the right people. It's about reviewing what you're doing and looking at your analytics, and looking at the results you're getting as well. Because if you've been working on building a personal brand on one platform for over 6 months and you haven't had a single lead, inquiry or comment from a relevant person that you kind of want to speak to, then you need to ask yourself why and look at the strategy that you're taking, because that's going to give you quite a good indication. But I would say there's opportunities on most platforms, but you do need to look at where your audience is hanging out, and like I say, like going and reading and looking at what other people are doing, what other people are posting. You can see where your target market is active, right?
Sure.
You can literally go on and see, are they commenting on stuff? You can click on people's profiles and get so much information about people. You can look at what your competitors are doing, and also that can enable you to spot gaps in the market too. If I honestly think if I'd have launched Class Bags probably on Instagram, where there's a lot of e-commerce businesses on Instagram, there's a lot of fashion businesses, there's a lot of bag businesses, my competition would have been so much higher with trying to sell laptop bags. So actually doing something completely different and unexpected on LinkedIn is what's really paid off for me. So I think that the main thing that you have to do, no matter what type of marketing you're doing, is look at your analytics and review the performance. if it is not working in 6 months' time, and it does take time sometimes for things to come to fruition, but if it isn't working, review it. You know, look at your strategy, make sure you pay attention to your demographics and that you really understand your customer. But also, you know, maybe there's a deeper piece as well of, is your target market who you think they are? Should you be targeting someone else? Is there a different platform that's going to work better for you? And actually, is your service or product tailored to the target market that you're trying to reach? Is it going to appeal to them? You know, so there's definitely like a wider marketing piece, I think. But yeah, whichever channel you choose, make sure you review your demographics and your analytics and your performance for sure.
And the bit that you both said, I think that's important as well. You know, is that, you know, that you do sometimes need help, you know, from a creative agency, really, just to make you stand out a little bit different. And I think that's sort of important, you know, especially if you're in a market which is highly competitive, or people are doing. If you're an accountant, everybody's an accountant. What's the unique selling point of that? So letting you stand out, personal branding allows you to do that is really important. I do like the idea of that, you know, looking at other channels as well. And I remember a guy called Daniel Asheville for Asheville Group, and what he does is has a big site where they just ship sand and concrete and all that type of stuff around, you know, to building sites or whatever. And he has a whole bunch of trucks on the roads. But his YouTube channel is just blown up. It's just madness.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think there's such an opportunity to differentiate yourself using your personal brand. You know, you can have so much creativity. You can be more opinionated. You don't have to kind of be vanilla and bland and blend in the sea of content. You know, personal branding as well is going to get way more competitive over the next couple of years.
Totally.
So I definitely think it's important to bring your personality to the forefront and be really, really brave with what you're going to say. Sometimes, you know, you are going to need to put your neck out on the line and have an opinion on things and current events and stuff like that if you really want to get that reach and connect with people. And it's not all about just attracting the right customer as well. It's about disqualifying the wrong customer. You know,
I like that.
Is it necessarily a bad thing if you put out there, you know, if you don't pay your bill, I won't work with people that won't pay their bills because of XYZ, share an experience that you had. You're probably going to put off people that potentially might work with you and not pay the invoice. Do you know what I mean? Because they would be put off by that kind of content. They know that you're not a pushover. So it can be about disqualifying the wrong kind of clients as well. I'm sure we've all had experiences of them. Catherine?
I like that. Very, very good point. Folks, we only got a few 15 minutes or so left anyway, and I'm just, you know, keen to also just prepare any questions that you may have. You may have some, you may not. I know these ladies are very, very persuasive, so you know, that's fine, that's good. But if you do have any questions, happy to pick those up and share them with Catherine and Charlotte as well. But a couple more questions that I just wanted to see if we can finish off and bring everybody back to what's this all about anyway. Tell me a few things about the do's and don'ts of personal branding. What you know, and like I say, I do love this element of personal branding being more than just social media. There's a whole aspect of it. But from your perspective, Catherine, what's some of the do's and don'ts of personal branding that people should be considering as well if they were getting going, or they may be experienced and they should stop doing?
That's a spicy topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about your personal branding, you want to think about what you want to communicate, and what you want to be known for, and, you know, think about how you want to present yourself as well. I mean, it's important that it's authentic, because when they meet you offline, you know, you should be the same person, but how you go and, you know, bury your soul on, you know, a professional platform like LinkedIn is you know, a bit up for debate. You know, I tend to do it based on what I am naturally talking about anyway, so like things that I would want to share with people. So, you know, I might not talk about something really personal that's happened that, you know, I wouldn't share with my work colleagues or my team, but I might share, about a holiday or, something that is personal, but that you would frequently talk about within your work. I mean, one of the things that I often do is I think about the stories that I already tell. So, what am I already talking about? Am I talking about my new PA that I just got, or am I talking about, something that really irks me in the industry, or, what is it that I am frequently talking about in like daily conversations, and then using that to create content. I mean, I there's not much that I would want to like throw shade at for, things that you shouldn't do, apart from perhaps not being authentic and, trying to be something that you're not. It's always good to think about how you want to present yourself and make sure that, what you do is intentional rather than unintentional, or a bit of a mess. But yeah, I mean, it's not really my place. I am quite happy with my personal brand. I mean, I wish I did more video, and it's something that we have plans to do as part of our marketing team, to increase the video content that we produce, which is really great. But I'm constantly looking at ways that I can improve and one up my own efforts and my own activities. But there's always room for improvement with everything. Even when you've got over 13,000 followers, you can still improve and can still learn from stuff.
Cool. Charlotte?
Yeah, I would say a pretty big don't for emerging personal brands is definitely don't just post and ghost, and don't expect people to be really interested in you if you're not showing an interest in anybody else, because it's not just about putting content out there, it's about building the relationship as well, building that connection with people. So if you're going to post daily and be really consistent, and people are going to comment and engage with your post, and you're just going to completely ignore them till the end of time, then they're probably not going to continue to engage with you. You're going to really struggle to pick up any kind of traction on the platform, and also they're probably not going to feel valued as a connection. So you definitely need to make sure that you are engaging back with people. And also don't make your personal brand all about you. Like, you're there for a purpose. Remember why you are there. You're there because if you, for example, like you said, if you want to grow your business, so who is it that you're trying to connect with, and what are the messages that you need to get across? I think being intentional is really, really important. And also don't be too scared as well. Like, experiment, and I think that using authenticity, you can, in being your authentic self, you can be more creative, and you can get personality across, and you can say different things. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing, and you don't have to sit on the fence. And I think that's really important. So don't be too scared to kind of find your voice and share your opinions, and really try and get your personality out there, because that is the leading thing that's going to differentiate yourself, especially when you're trying to get that foothold and get that traction and build those connections. If you're not really willing to put yourself out there at all in any way, you're going to really struggle to stand out in like a sea of content. So I think that's really probably going to be my 3 don'ts.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. No, it's excuse me, it's so important really to I just want to just emphasize this authenticity element and integrity element. And so many people, when they see you, face to face, they have a persona of you. And it's quite funny how they how can I put it, as if they know you already by when they see you face to face, from the sort of persona you've given off. And so that authenticity is really, really important, in demonstrating that integrity, that you say what you're going to do. And when people have a relationship with you and they say, oh, well, yeah, he's all talk on blah, blah, blah. But, in reality, yeah, he's this and that in the business world. So it's really important to be consistent in relation to how you want your brand to be represented. And I think also the element is also, which is quite important, is that once you put yourself out there, that is how people think that your business is as well. So it's really important that the integrity element that you give off, the value and culture that you espouse on those social media platforms, should be portrayed also in your business. last thing people want to engage with you, and then your business is saying something completely different. The value proposition is completely different than what you're espousing on social media. So,
and not just like your
really
personal
important.
brand as well, but like we've seen that in recent months, right? Without touching on it too deeply, but there's obviously been a lot going on in the world, and we've seen some businesses get boycotted and their sales plummet because of not the personal brand of the owner of the company, but because they've used personal branding strategies with senior members of their staff that have then become associated with things that have been considered absolutely terrible in the general public opinion. And those companies have become boycotted. So, like you say, if you are going to put your personal brand out there, you've got to be willing to put your neck on the line and consider your target market as well, for sure.
No, cool. And sort of a final question really is, just give us just encourage the folk over here in on the podcast with some examples of people who were probably a bit naysayers, a bit skeptic, or whatever it is, and how either of you, if necessary, been able to turn them around to help them to have a good personal brand that's helped them to grow themselves as people, but also their business. Catherine, do you want to give us a couple examples?
Yeah, I mean, we specialize in the tech industry, and we help people to build their personal brands as part of our social media service. So, I mean, we've quite often seen people who are very introverted, who, wouldn't naturally do it themselves, be able to take their personal brand and then, start securing speaking gigs, or even, to be able to find new employees and new connections, which is really nice. So, your personal brand has far reaching. It's not just about driving sales. I mean, sales helps, obviously, but it's about so much more than that. It's about building brand awareness, attracting new employees, being able to retain your existing employees, and to grow the company in all elements. So, it's not just about sales. Sales obviously help, prospects help, but it has far greater reaching impact.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. No, and we haven't touched a little bit about the sort of talent attraction element, but I would have thought your new PA would have sussed you out before she applied. Was that correct, Catherine?
Yeah, I think we were definitely connected. I mean, and I likewise, looked at her profile. I mean, we look at all the LinkedIn profiles of everybody that we hire. We've got a 25 team. And it's obviously something that we take into account. Not that everybody needs to have a personal brand, but we at least check out who they are on LinkedIn and make sure that they're not super offensive. But my new PA, who just started the other week, had a big experience in gaming, which is an industry that we're expanding into, and that we already do some work within. So that for her to gain a job was quite a useful thing. But yeah. Well, I think we sussed each other out before I hired her, as is normally the case.
Sure. Charlotte?
Yeah. What with regards to talent attraction?
Or in terms of clients that you've had who you've been skeptical and not sure, but you've been able to sort of help them on their journey so that they could have a strong personal brand for not only themselves but the business.
Yeah, for sure. So I've worked with tons of people actually to build a personal brand over the last few years, which I'm really pleased to obviously bring that to Rebellion. And I think probably like then this was a unicorn, so this never happened since. One of the ones was I was working with a guy who he had quite a low confidence, I would say, or low self-esteem, and was looking to grow his business and win new clients. And through getting to know him and talking about like his story, what kind of content we would post, what content pillars would suit him, where we could be consistent, like what's his story that people are going to kind of connect with, that he was comfortable with people kind of knowing. And through those initial conversations, he had informed me that he'd in fact lost about like 12 stone in a year and a half or something like that. And I was blown away by it when I saw the before and after pictures. And the very first post that we ever put on LinkedIn was actually not about his business at all. It was about his weight loss transformation and how that had helped him with his confidence in business. But it was not directly talking about his business. There was no sales pitch whatsoever. And it went so viral. It was his first ever post, and he had about 200 connections on LinkedIn. So not very many at all. And he got over 35,000 engagements. And I remember when it went off and it started taking off, and I was like, is this broken? Like, what's going on here? You know, like refreshing the screen. And I was like, this is insane. I've never seen a post go this viral before. And it was his first ever post. So, like I say, that's a unicorn. I've never had that happen before or since. Yeah. But there's a ton of opportunities that clients of mine have had, from, you know, getting investment, doing TED Talks, being asked to be featured in different publications, going on TV, being featured on the news, a bunch of different things, but especially using your traffic from your personal brand to drive traffic to your website and also get referrals. Because the amazing thing about building a personal brand and really, like I said, going and connecting with, communicating with, commenting on, back and forth with different people, is it's not just your connections that you're actually reaching, it's the connections of your connections. And even if your product or service isn't relevant to one of your followers, if they know without a doubt who you are and what you do, and they trust and believe in you, when they're having a conversation with someone who isn't even on social media and they say, oh, I need someone that's going to, you know, I don't know, put new windows in my house. If they're connected with you, they might not need that, but they can say, oh, I'll follow someone on LinkedIn and this is them and this is their business, and refer them over to you as well. So, yeah, I would say, you know, there's a bunch of different benefits that come from building your personal brand. And I think that, you know, views and engagement is amazing, and it's definitely the aim of the game, because the more views and engagement you can get, the wider reach you can get. But your personal brand and your messaging has to be on point in order for that to be effective in winning your business.
Certainly very true. Thank you. Very good. And that messaging is super important. You've got to be consistent. You know, over everything. You cannot be seen to be somebody, as I think you mentioned an example, and I know several case studies and examples I always do and give on my LinkedIn posts as well, or people say one thing and that their brand says another thing, and it's just a nightmare really to clean up. Final thoughts, folks. Final thoughts. Our time has gone, and but no, really appreciate your insights as well. So I'm going to leave a couple of final thoughts to you, lovely ladies. So Catherine, do you want to just have a sort of 30-second final thoughts in terms of where, you know, anything that we should take away from obviously the title, and or sort of anecdote that we should really have and always remember when we come to talking about personal branding?
I guess the final thought I normally refer to when it comes to personal branding is not to let perfection stand in the way of progress.
Very good. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, you want to get started. It's more important that you get started and that you know, start to learn your audience and what works, and that you do a post that is 100% perfect. You know, I still do posts that don't always perform super well, you know, and that happens for a variety of reasons. You know, not everyone's going to knock out of the park. You know, you will have those viral posts that reach hundreds of thousands of people, but you'll also have posts that, you know, don't reach anybody, and that's okay. So, you know, just get started and, you know, get out of your own head and, enjoy the journey.
Very good. Charlotte?
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. Like I said, just read as much as you can, find inspiration where you can, follow creators that you enjoy their content, think about how you can apply that to yourself, and, you know, don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone a little bit. I remember the first time I ever posted a video on LinkedIn, I was literally dying of anxiety, and I just had to like throw my phone across the room and not look at it for a while. So, you know, you are going to feel that you've never done before, uncomfortable doing something. Just keep pushing forward, and also just know that probably the people that are already in your network aren't going to be your biggest supporters on whatever platform it is. They might say, oh, why are you doing that? That's out of character for you. But you're going to find your tribe and you're going to find your people online. They're going to see your content. It's going to resonate with them. And you will find people that are going to support you on whatever platform you choose. Your personal values effectively.
Great.
Sorry,
thank you. And a little bit of network, but just as well got that last bit in. So thank you again, folks. I really do appreciate your time. Again, just identifying some of the things that we talked about in relation to the whole today in terms of enhanced reputation and credibility, business growth opportunities, talent attraction and retention. I mean, a lot of people have followed us and been followed our business because of what we've been doing on the personal branding side. So just be aware of that as well. And I say it's it's just been really nice to have you guys. Thank you very much. Do appreciate you coming on board. If you want to know more about the ladies, again, just have a look on LinkedIn and and obviously contact me directly. There's an email address there. A little bit of personal branding as well. My book, The 10 Commandments of Business Growth, out on Amazon, Kindle, and also on Audible. So if you want to hear my sultry tones, bless not, then it's on Audible as well. But Charlotte and Catherine are on LinkedIn, so reach out to them, say and thank you for their contribution today. Thank you, ladies. Really do appreciate your time and effort, and I wish you all well for the rest of the afternoon and for the week. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.